you sing me your song, singing now that I am with you, but I won't be with you long. Well, I'd rather some dark holler where the sun don't ever shine than to see you with another when you promised to be mine. Well, I'd rather be a sailor and sail out on the sea.
It is July 14th on this Wednesday. Welcome you to Real Talk. Thanks for making time for us today. Thanks for downloading the show. Thanks for being here for a number of really great conversations we're going to have. This show is presented, as you know, by the team at Bitcoin Well, our presenting sponsor since day one. Next week, we're going to get founding CEO Adam O'Brien on the show. He's going to join the founding... Does Kubisky go by CEO at Kubi Energy? I think so. He's like the founding president?
He's a big deal.
He's a big deal.
Let's
He's
call
the
him
founder.
CEO.
We'll just say founder. Yeah, we just make him. He's CEO.
Yeah.
Good enough. He's when you're the founder, you're kind of whatever you want.
Exactly.
Right? So the two of them are going to be on the show. Adam has been on in past talking about what I know a lot of people are talking about, the environmental impact of cryptocurrency. One of the big storylines, of course, is the amount of energy it takes to mine Bitcoin. Well, two of our prominent sponsors, Bitcoin Well and Kubi Energy. Kubi Energy is kind of just like riding the coattails of this presentation message, aren't they? They're like, all right, we like this. We'll be sure to mention Bitcoin Well when we talk about Kubi Energy a little bit later on. They're partnering. They're working together to aspire toward net zero Bitcoin mining. Amazing stuff. That's coming up next week right here on Real Talk.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
You gonna be okay there, Hoyles?
That just machine gun Real Talk was incredible.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. We had out of the gates here an interesting. We had an opportunity when we first launched the show and first launched Trash Talk to really do everything possible to sort of from a presentation standpoint. This goes back to the days of the Foley stage and all the audio files and production geeks will get all that kind of stuff. Foley back in the day, using, upside down coconut shells to mimic the sound of a horse going across cobblestone or whatever. And good Foley artists are really great at what they do. And so we were, when we first launched the show, we were thinking that maybe on Fridays it should be presented by Local Waste. It's Trash Talk. I sort of have always found that it's not technically Foley, but the ability to add that extra little bit, if you have it in you, why wouldn't you?
It just feels like you have a little pep in your step today.
A little pep in my. Well, I'm excited. I'm under rested today. Is that it? Is that what you mean?
Well, I almost feel like it's maybe you had an amazing culinary experience yesterday.
Where are you going? Oh, I know. Oh, are you making fun of me? Are you making fun of me?
I would.
Are you making fun of my taco in a bag?
No,
is this what you're talking about?
That looked amazing to me.
Okay, so is that what you're talking about?
That is what I'm talking about. Look at that thing.
Well, thank you very much.
That's your pep in your step.
If you're listening on the podcast, I encourage you to check out my Instagram. It's on my Insta story. So you're going to have to get to it as soon as possible. You're going to want to prioritize this, and I've also tweeted about it. We were lucky enough to be playing at the Ranch Golf and Country Club yesterday. It's my home course. I love it out there. It's in amazing shape. And I said, you talk to people that play a course a lot. They play their home course, and you say what are the inside tips and tricks, right? You'll be tempted to hit driver on 3, but what you're going to want to do is lay up with your 3 wood and hit a nice 7-iron into the green, stay to the left, it runs to the right, all this kind of stuff. So I thought I would share my expertise and my experience with everyone yesterday. You're welcome. And so as we hit the turn, played all right, but blew up for an 8. right before the turn. So the scorecard was junk. It was
Okay.
plain all right, but once you put an 8 on there, forget about it. And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to eat my feelings. And so I went and got a taco in a bag. And as you can see from the photo, if you're listening again to the podcast, you have to. It's on my Twitter. Check it out. It's going to be the most beautiful thing you're going to see
But
today.
it's like, I mean, it's a Dorito. Is it Doritos?
It's Doritos, right? And then you hold the bag, so you don't hold it up and down. If you're envisioning this at home, you want to hold the bag sideways.
Oh, and then cut it open
and
that
then you
way.
cut it open so so it's
Along
like
the-
exactly. So it's like if the bag was laying down, you'd cut it open across the top.
You'd cut its stomach wide open.
Yeah. And then, geez, it doesn't have to sound like surgery. And then, a healthy top, you could do it however you like. There they have, I mean, this sounds like a commercial. It's not, but there they have like their sort of slow cooker going with the beef. So I had some beef on there. And then they go with like the, there are some redundancies with some extra cheese, fresh lettuce, fresh tomato, sour cream, salsa. Like, are you kidding me?
Is there any guac in there?
There's no guac in there. There could be. You could do. The sky's the limit.
Because
really.
when I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm doing that at home.
Well, why not do it at home? And you can see, Sam, are you a veteran of the taco in a bag, or is this?
I mean, like, define veteran. I've had them many times in my life. They're not
that qualifies
okay,
you as
yeah. It is a delicacy. It is a great grab and go, out in the wild delicacy.
Now
It's
I want to pick your
fantastic.
brain.
Yeah,
and
all right.
I want to ask the question in a way that is not leading. How do you eat your taco in a bag?
I think you're trying to mean is like you slice it open, you go at it with a fork. That's how I eat taco.
Okay,
bag.
so
Yeah.
because here's the thing. Yesterday, so like I was saying to the boys, like taco in a bag. One guy was unlucky because he goes in and he gets the Smokies. Smokies are fine, right? I saw that Chris Henderson left a comment from Y Station. Left a comment on my post. He said Smokies or GTFO. I was like, okay, that's a little heavy. You know what that is, of course.
Oh, yeah. I had to do the spelling.
Earmuffs, everybody, but get the. So he says Smokies or GTFO. I walk in there, and one of our guys he's getting, the attendant there. She's loading up his Smoky with like banana peppers. He's doing the whole 9 yards. I think there may have been some sauerkraut on there. I'm not totally sure. I ordered the taco in a bag, and he just, like, his face, he was like, oh, because right away he knew. He knew right away he blew it on his order. But it was too late. And so it was my cart partner, as a matter of fact, so he got to watch me eat the taco in a bag, and he was kind of picking my brain on the proper way to do it, because there's, on the one hand, you want to just dip, the Doritos are whole, right? Now, you talk to some taco in a bag purists, and the very first thing they'll do after, so you cut the bag open, and then you give it just a little, right? With your hands, you compress the bag to break up the Doritos, as opposed to leaving them in diamond-shaped form. I should talk now how you can get Doritos at Freezing Brothers and all that stuff, probably, right? Done. There we go. And, but I prefer to have them crunched up a little bit, so then I don't sort of dip in and try to dip a full Dorito in to get the beef and the sour cream and the tomatoes and the lettuce, because you're digging into the bag and it gets all messy, and plus you're playing golf, right? You can't have sour cream all over your hands. You got to sit there and lick your hands before you can putt. You know what I mean? You're just licking them like a cat.
That's not very sanitary.
It's not very sanitary at all. So I kind of mash it up a little bit. I give it a stir with the fork, and then it's just like taco salad. Just bang, bang, bang. That thing didn't even make it. You can see in the photo, there's a water hazard there. We're hitting off 10, so I'm looking for the left side of the fairway, which I found. And by the left side of the fairway, I mean like the way left side of I didn't find my ball.
Okay.
But what I did do was finish my taco in a bag before I took my third shot, which is, pretty. Let me just say I crushed it. Thank you for giving me an opportunity for 7.5 minutes to talk about taco in a bag. It's one of you look at the comments, like Sherry left a comment. She simply says, "This is one of the greatest inventions of our time." There's going to be other, radio shows and talk shows and podcasts across Canada right now talking about all kinds of things. I guarantee you nobody's dedicating 7 minutes to the culinary magic of taco in a bag.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, everybody. I wonder how many real talkers, you know what I'm going to say? If you're inspired by this, and in the next 24 hours, if you happen to to make a taco in a bag or your take on taco in a bag, we'd love to see it, wouldn't we? On Instagram,
Oh, yes, I would.
You could tag me on Instagram, or you could use the Twitter hashtag #RealTalkRJ. We could maybe come up with some sort of a prize for like the most impressive taco in a bag.
Ooh.
It doesn't have to be. You could be listening from Guatemala, or you could be listening from Australia. I was taking a look at our web analytics yesterday. There are people that are tuning in from China. I love it. Taco in a bag can be one of these. Are we appropriating it? I don't know. Based on our conversation yesterday, I wonder if we're appropriating it. Culinary appropriation should be another segment that we do.
This is too well. Did you? I'm sure everybody heard about the late night talk show host who was using delicacies and like culinary traditions of other cultures and saying that they were disgusting.
What do you mean? I have no context.
Oh,
what they were?
Corden. What's his name?
James Corden.
James Corden,
the British guy.
Yeah,
yeah.
They
the
were
karaoke guy. The karaoke and cars
car karaoke guy,
which has been what a boon for him, publicity wise, amazing.
Yeah, he hit onto something on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was just basically like, can you stomach eating these different things? And and they were taking dishes that were from China, from all different places, and
So not like he wasn't saying like he wasn't taking like bastardized Chinese food,
no.
like North American, like ginger beef, which is not really Chinese. He was taking like legit food from China and then sort of doing the whole like, oh, look how gross this is.
Look at how gross this is. Can you stomach it?
Really?
And people were like, stop.
That's kind of a weird. Corden sort of isn't he kind of seen as one of the more? I hate using the word woke, but like, isn't he? He's sort of seen as one of the guys, isn't he? Like one of the respected guys.
I thought so. But
that seems like a bit of a rookie. It seems like a bit of a rookie mistake. Yeah. I haven't seen the segment. Sometimes you can have hot takes on something, and because there's like a, what do I want to say? Like the environment around it can be supercharged.
Yeah.
So a comment that would be rather benign all of a sudden becomes.
No, but it's the whole segment is based. Anyways,
right?
Give it a look. See,
the idea of cultural appropriation in food is interesting, though, right?
Yeah.
Like can a white person, with no, Japanese heritage open a sushi restaurant, or could a Japanese person open a taco stand, a Mexican restaurant, and you might go, well, sure. But I've seen some significant pushback on some initiatives. There was a story of a food truck starting up in Edmonton, our home city, a number of years ago, and it was invoking. I know that the chef and the proprietor, the would-be proprietor in that case, meant no harm, and I know that because he sat with me in studio alongside an anti-racism advocate. These days everyone's just saying an anti-racist. Right? Or just a good human. Both of them were great, though, and it was a wonderful conversation, and there was that idea of seek to understand, and why is this being perceived as problematic, and people just didn't like, quite frankly. I don't remember what it was called. It was something like, not Smiling Buddha.
There was Buddha in the name, for
sure.
Yeah,
there was Buddha. I think it was like Buddha Bowls or something like that. And everyone was talking down south of here, in Calgary, Alberta. There was that tattoo shop. I don't know if it's still open, but the iconic tattoo shop, Smiling Buddha Tattoo, and people started talking about that and what imagery can you invoke. And there was a bar, Funky Buddha, a while ago, and it's people start. These are fascinating conversations, right? You think of how people of the Muslim faith, for example, feel about depictions, editorial cartoons, for example, of the Prophet Muhammad. It is a no-fly zone, no-go zone, like absolutely not cool. And you take a look at how the Buddha has been, characterized, right? And branded and used for so many things in the name of commerce. And you wonder if that maybe, that whole idea, that whole talk about appropriation, what a fascinating conversation yesterday with our fashion psychologist. I thought that was great. Dr. Dawn Karen, I noticed that she actually just posted on her Instagram the link to our conversation. You've resonated with somebody like her. She's kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And she's like a Columbia educated, psychologist, and she was talking to us about cultural appreciation versus appropriation. I see now on her Instagram the link to our interview, link in bio. Once somebody moves the interview to link to hey, you guys know when you've cracked that, when you become the link to link in bio, That's a good sign there. We're going to be talking about changing workplaces in just a second. We got some politics to talk about today. Of course, it's Wednesday, so we've got MyJasper memories coming up, and you're not going to want to miss a segment coming up with a Harvard-educated lawyer who's not practicing law anymore because she's tapped into something absolutely massive. Loni Edwards, the founder and CEO of the Dog Agency, on the heels of Gary the Adventure Cat. We're now going to find out how to make your dog famous. I think that the first question will have to be, can we talk about how to make your pet famous, or is there something about dogs in particular? We'll see what
her
she says.
agency, although it is called the Dog Agency,
They'll rep all kinds?
They'll rep animals of all kinds.
So I'm going to know, like, for example, if you have a boa constrictor and you're like, he's
adorable.
Well, he's got way more personality than all the other. Have you ever been around other boas? They're so boring. But our guy... as he sort of slithers and wraps around you, he does it with such personality. I want to find out if we can make him famous. You know what I'm saying? The teams at Dairy Queens of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park know that this is the time of year where everybody's thinking of, hot eats for sure, and if that's the case, but, they've got some specials for you, but cool treats as well. You kidding me? Whether it's the Buster Bar, the Peanut Buster Bar Parfait, whether it's the soft cone, that traditional Dairy Queen classic, or any of their Blizzard lineups, you're going to want to visit the Dairy Queens in Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, Y Gardens, and Baseline Road. And right now, the monthly special for Real Talkers right now, if you drop our name at any of those 6 Dairy Queens, they're going to give you 2 cheeseburgers for $5, 2 doubles for $7. I'd be curious to know if anybody goes with just the 2 for $5. I'm not sure. Like, if you can pick up 2 doubles for $7,
you got to go up to the doubles.
Why wouldn't you upgrade to the doubles? Right?
They're big too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I have had the double cheeseburgers
in
this deal before. Like, they're big burgers.
The taste of that grill, what the grill does to it. Woo wee, baby. The Dairy Queens of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. Also wanted to remind you that the team at Kubi Energy, they present Positive Reflections in partnership with us. Of course, every single week here on Real Talk. Those on Mondays. This week, we launched a new contest. You can check it out at kubienergy.ca/Real Talk. All the details on the Real Talk Net Zero Solar Contest presented by the team at Kubi Energy. There is no catch here. We want to hear your solar stories, and somebody's going to win a full solar system, a full setup valued at approximately $15,000. We don't know exactly how much it's going to work out to, of course, because it depends on your home and it depends on what the needs are and how many panels they put up there. But the fact of the matter is you're going to pay exactly $0. Now, what do you have to do? Send us an email. Let me call it a submission, because it can be whatever you like. You can attach photos. You can tell us your story. You can make it a video if you like. Why do you or somebody you know deserve a full new net zero setup from Kubi Energy? The contest is open right now. It's open for the next couple of weeks, as a matter of fact. All the details, it'll wrap up July 25th at midnight, and that's when Real Talkers will go to the polls, so to speak. You're going to vote from a top 3 to see who wins. All the details at kubienergy.ca/Real Talk. Well, I bet you this week, for some of you, has meant a return back to work, whether it's the hundreds of you that answered our question of the week by our friends at Y Station, letting us know that you headed back into the office because there was air conditioning and you don't have it at home, or maybe the boss is recalling you. Maybe they're saying the world is reopening and so are we. It's back to normal, back to the workplace. It's an issue that's relevant to millions of Canadians. Dr. Linda Duxbury is a professor in management at Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Grateful to have her joining us this morning. Dr. Duxbury, welcome to Real Talk, and a good morning to you.
Thanks very much. Though I feel like I don't have anything to say because I can't talk about boa constrictors or how to eat tacos, but I will do my best to inform the issue on work from home.
Doctor, I'll tell you, I have our producer, Sarah Hoyles, does an amazing job of preparing us for success here, and I have a ton of information in front of me, a lot of background information, some research, some bullet points, and suggested questions. Believe it or not, there were no notes on tacos in a bag nor boa constrictors, but here we are. Let's dig into this.
I could wing it.
We'll
you
see.
know?
If anything occurs
Don't
to you,
work from home if you have a boa constrictor. That's what I would say.
yeah,
But
it's not my jam, but for someone it may be. Hey, how was your in the last 18 months or so? You're a professor. obviously there would be implications, I would imagine, with regards to where university students were gathering or not. I mean, in the business or the work context, the professional context, how did your life change most drastically over the past 18 months?
So we went online for teaching totally. So we were teaching, and then the very next week, so you're going to be teaching all online. Hybrid, not hybrid, like right online, Zoom. So in about a 2-week period, I learned MediaSpace, Kaltura, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. I take my lectures. I learned all kinds of stuff. A lot of stuff I didn't really want to learn, and in a very compressed time period. So that's the same as many of the people who are watching right now or listening right now. We went, and I teach change, which is kind of interesting. So when I taught last summer and last fall, my whole course now is about COVID. And I'm teaching the MBA on change again in September. And again, it'll all be on COVID, because this is, we're living an experiment, aren't we?
How do you teach change, or how do you teach on change?
Well, you see, change is something, it's very interesting, because change is very hard. And we like to talk change, but not do change. And many people think talking about it is doing it, but there's quite a big difference. And the problem and of relevance to this whole discussion right now is we're hardwired to like habits. We have routines, and we're comfortable with routines. Think about it. You get up in the morning, you clean your teeth. Like, you don't actually process, I'm going to do this now. I'm not thinking about my tacos. I'm going to do how I'm going to do it.
Speak for yourself. Yeah.
So it's hardwired. And changing that is very difficult, but we force people to change. So we've known for quite a while that work from home, 1 or 2 or 3 days a week makes a lot of sense for a lot of jobs, for a lot of people. But for a lot of companies, we can't do that. And people are going, yes, you can. Yes, you can. They're going, no, we can't. And then, hello, COVID. Well, I guess we can. And so we force people to work from home in hugely unideal situations, because those of people who are listening or watching whose kids were in school, out of school, in school, out of school, daycare's open, daycare's not open. Hey, your kid has a sniffle, get a test. Like, this was not ideal situation, but still people prevailed. They created habits. And now we're going, hey, got to go back. And they're going, not so sure that that's what I want to do, because now I have new habits, new routines, and I'm quite comfortable at home. So this next, talking about teaching about change, one of the big projects I'm going to make my students do, it's either 2 things, climate change or hybrid work. You pick, because those are the big issues right now. And how are we going to actually convince people? How are we going to overcome resistance? All of these kinds of things to actually make this work. So, I love what I teach because it's real life. The only problem with what I teach is I have to change how I teach it every year.
Yeah, no kidding.
I know that, but what do you do?
Well, you have to live, you have to exemplify the openness to it, don't you? I mean, you are case in point every class you teach.
Well, the problem is, though, I'm not misexciting on technology. And so they have to force me to change my technology, but once I'm forced, I will adapt. And that's the same as most people. When you talk about how do we get people to change? Well, you force them. And then they actually go through a cognitive process where it's called cognitive dissonance. I don't believe this, but you're making me do this. So we actually change our minds. So we think it's a good idea what we're doing. So the human psyche is very complicated.
This is, you and I can obviously talk about this from 2 different directions, can't we? Because we can talk about, convincing employers that employees should be able to work from home or maybe dictate their own terms to a certain degree. And then vice versa, right? Employers want to talk to employees about either going back or maybe staying home.
What's interesting is we're moving into a very different time there as well. Well, there's so many changes that are coming. So people who are professionals, knowledge workers, who have the skills that the market needs right now, they will write their own ticket. And it's not going to be an employer saying, no, you come back. It's going to be the employee saying, no, let me tell you how I'm willing to work for you. Okay. On the other hand, you've got people who don't have the skills that the market needs or who can be replaced relatively easily, and they're not going to be able to negotiate like that. So one of the things that I really worry about is we're going to see a greater bifurcation. You know, we're going to see the haves and the have-nots, the winners, the losers. And it's, you know, moving forward, a lot of people employers are in for a huge shock. You know, in Ottawa right now, they're going, oh my God, we can't get people to work in restaurants. Well, oh my God, you got to pay them a little more. Okay, it's like, duh. If you can't get people to work for what you're willing to offer, then maybe you have to think about the offer. And that's where we're coming to, because people, this has been a life-changing experience for a lot of people. And they're, you know, a lot of people have thought about what's important to me. And we've seen this movement. I don't know if you've heard of it, YOLO, which is you only live once. And you know what? I'm not going to do a crap job for very little pay and be treated like dirt. And I'm supposed to be grateful. No. So well, I think employers have talked for decades about, you know, we're providing the service through our most valuable resource, our people. And some firms have treated people like they're valuable, but a lot of them have not. Well, you know, it's coming home to roost. Now you're going to have to walk the talk here around your people piece. And a lot of people that we've been following over the last little while, you know, people are looking at how their employer has treated them over the last 18 months. And some people are going, you know, you talked about support. You talked about, we understand you have children, but you're sending me emails 24/7. You're expecting me to work evenings, weekends. You're saying you understand, but you don't. And so I'm sorry. Now I don't understand you and I don't want to work for you anymore. Other employers have been fabulous. Other managers have been fabulous. And they've got loyalty that you can't get any other way. So it's going to be interesting. Sorry, I can talk about this forever. As you probably know.
And I invite you to, because I know that I mean, it's a speculative exercise to a certain degree, right? Wondering, you know, what's it going to look like 1 or 2 or 5 years down the road. And I wonder, you know, I mean, whether it's from a personal standpoint, people talking about personal relationships, you wonder what divorce rates might look like coming out of the pandemic. Maybe people kind of batten down the hatches as a family unit now, but emerging, you know, people's mindsets might be a little bit different. I think there's going to be a storyline there, or there already is one. And I think professionally as well, you wonder, you know, what the workforce might look like, because I hear, you know, a bunch of people, obviously, you know, it's been tough for folks during the pandemic. A lot of people have lost their jobs and it's been difficult, but we're also hearing from employers. You just referenced it, Linda. You know, restaurateurs is one example, but I've got a buddy that provides professional services, and he told me that he's not even bidding on jobs right now because he doesn't have the workers to complete the work. So he's not even bidding right now.
And we're seeing people really did career rethinking and going, hey, I'm not going back to this job. And really essential services like nurses, teachers, again, where our talk has perhaps not been where our walk has. I mean, healthcare people who work in old age homes, oh, come on. You know, they're working 2-3 different institutions just to get a living wage. Then we go, oh my God, you're spreading COVID from institution to institution. Now we're having real problems. Like a lot of nurses, a lot of teachers, we want to get them and keep them in that profession. we have to start treating them with a little bit more respect. And by that, I'm saying, hello, government. Hello, government.
Well, how so? Are you talking? What role do you see government playing here?
Well, government is legislating all over the place in terms of pay, in terms of working conditions, in terms of curriculum, in terms of, with very little consultation of the people who are actually in the jobs and have to deliver the service. But
hang on a second, because you're a business.
I might be going the wrong way here.
Well, no, hey, I love it. I love hard swerves and interviews. Don't get me wrong. I'm along for the ride with you, doctor. But you're a business professor. People are going to be going, I thought a business professor would want government to get the hell out of the way.
Why would you ever think that? Business is very pragmatic. So, well, it depends on, I'm not a finance prof and I'm not an accounting prof, okay? I'm a management prof, management strategy. My area is people. So I'm saying you can quantify things and talk in terms of money too much. Quite often, if you get the lowest paying provider, you're going to have to get somebody to come back in and fix it up, because you tend to get what you pay for in this world, okay? So the problem is, as I said before, we talk about the value we put on people. But as long as there was people looking for work, we didn't have to match our words. Now, as I was talking about in terms of restaurants, your professional services firm, buddy, it's not about salaries per se. People should stop thinking you can buy your employees' love and loyalty. You can't buy it. If you can pay them money, somebody can pay them $1 more. And if that's what gets them and keeps them, it's going to keep escalating. What is really important is respect, trust, empowerment, control. So respect and trust come from, I'm going to consult you before making a change that will dramatically impact your work. I will not legislate salaries so much as discuss, I won't impose things on the public sector that I wouldn't impose on the private sector.
Let me ask you this. We spoke to a couple of employment lawyers, a couple of labor lawyers, a couple of weeks ago or so, about mandatory vaccinations in workplaces. And TLDR, basically the short story is they argue that employers cannot require employees to be vaccinated to return to the workplace. This is obviously something that's going to be relevant and a concern in workplaces. What's your take on it, on what's appropriate or what good management looks like in having that conversation with people that will cohabit from 9 to 5 or whatever their workday looks like?
Have you been following France? So Macron, he said, okay, you want to work in healthcare? You want to work in old age homes? You want to work in, you must be doubly vaccinated. Yeah. I'm sorry. You don't have to work here, but if you want to work here, here's the conditions. And nobody's making you get a vaccination, but if you want to go to restaurants, you want to do this, you want to do that. And he said, no longer are we going to actually protect the unvaccinated by penalizing the vaccinated. Okay? And since he did that, within, I think it was a 12-hour period, 1.6 million French, got an appointment and got vaccinated. So that's kind of evidence. Remember, I said that, in fact, the only way sometimes to get people to change their behavior is actually put a rule in place. So look at seatbelt laws. Oh, I don't have to wear a seatbelt. Okay, but we can fine you. Okay, I guess I'll wear a seatbelt. So there are certain rules. You can't smoke here. Okay, same rule. Why? Because secondhand smoke hurts everybody else. All right. So, I'm just saying, you want to get 90% of your people vaccinated, then maybe one of the things you've got to consider is vaccination certificates, and don't penalize anybody who doesn't want to get vaccinated. But it simply means we don't make you get vaccinated, but you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that without it, because everybody else, you're putting other people in jeopardy. That's all I'm saying.
That was
it's a legal problem. Yeah,
it is. And that was June 23rd, by the way. If anybody wants to go back and download the podcast or check it out on our YouTube page, you can find it easily. June 23rd, the conversation with a couple of labor lawyers. I'd be curious to me, this is easier said than done because I'm doing the armchair thing, right? I'm the armchair HR manager right now, or the armchair CEO, which is way different than actually putting that policy in place. But I'm with you. I'd say, you don't have to get vaccinated, and we don't have to let you come back to the workplace. And if you don't provide proof of vaccination, you're not coming back to the workplace. I suspect that somebody, maybe they would have been represented by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms if John Carpe, the president, hadn't taken indefinite leave after hiring PIs to follow judges home. But someone else will jump to some braying ass's defense who's trying to get back into the workplace without a vaccination. I wouldn't be surprised if this runs up to the highest courts.
I would not be either. And the problem is, okay, you're entitled not to get a vaccination. And then you get the circular argument. And you know what? I'm entitled not to come in
to
the workplace because I can't guarantee that I won't get sick. And so how do you deal with this? The EU right now has said, hello, we have double vaccination certificates, and you're simply not crossing borders without them. But no one's making you come to Europe. But I do think, the case in point of France proves exactly what I'm saying. People who are, I read an article and it also speaks to this. There are 4 groups of people who aren't getting vaccinated. Okay. One, they just don't believe. They believe that we're putting transmitters under their skin, and that's it. Mm-hmm. We've got a group of people, though, who are socioeconomically disadvantaged. They're in tenuous jobs. They need the income. And quite frankly, they can't afford to take a day or two off work. Okay. So what if they get Moderna or Pfizer and they get, as many people do on the second shot, sick for 2 days and can't go in? So that's where that whole argument comes from. You've got to legislate 1 or 2 days of paid sick leave. You've got to stop with the idea we can't give that because some people will abuse it, and say, yes, but don't manage the abusers, manage the people who want to come to work, who need the income, but who need the shot. Okay. Then the third group of people, and that's more in the States than in Canada. They live in the Appalachians. There's no access to vaccine. So Canada's been very good. We've got these mobile vans, It's like Dairy Queen you were talking about. They're ringing their bell going, come on. The vaccine truck is here. And then the last group are on the fence and they're going, well, I'm going to wait and see. Mm-hmm. To a couple of those groups. So figure out, again, from a management perspective, figure out why people aren't getting the vaccine, and then give the solution to fit the problem. Don't assume that everybody's in that one camp, because they're not.
We've seen just earlier this month, as a matter of fact, Sun Life Financial, it employs 12,000 Canadians. And it's announced that it will not require employees to return to the office or return to the traditional workspace. As pandemic restrictions ease, they're allowing employees flexibility to decide their own work arrangements. That's a Herculean effort, I would suspect. If you're talking about 12,000 employees getting it all figured out, this is the one time where people will say, thank God for middle management. But do you see more big companies moving in this direction, or for that matter, the small players too?
So I'm not sure that's the right direction to go. Okay. And again, kind of controversial. A lot of, but you see, we forced everybody to go home. All right. But the research says not all jobs can be done from home. Okay. Not all people have, to be able to work effectively from home, you have to have a lot of self-discipline. You have to manage your day. You have to, and so by self-discipline, I'm not actually speaking about the people, oh my God, they're doing their laundry and they're cleaning the fridge. I'm talking about the people who don't know when to stop working, okay, who work evenings, who work weekends, who are constantly, trying to be available because, we're working from home, but we're checking on you. We're sending you this, we're sending that. I think that we have to really, a lot of managers don't know how to manage remote workers. A lot of managers themselves are working remotely and they don't know how to do it as well. We do know that, and how are you going to deal with people who come in versus people who stay home? I think it's premature, and I think we need to have some serious examination of how we're going to do this before we sell our physical real estate. Because once you've sold your physical real estate, it's going to be difficult. My research on telework says 1, 2, or 3 days at home and 1, 2, 3 days at work are great. But full-time at home, full-time in the office for professional workers. And then we've got the whole group of workers whose jobs won't let them work from home. And then you've got 2 classes of citizens. Anyway, it's a very complicated issue. I think we've got to be careful how we approach it.
Yeah, no kidding. And I want to be sensitive to your time. I know you have a meeting. I'll make this our last question.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey, no, give me a break. We're looking forward to having you back already. I want to talk to you for an hour one day. But let me ask you this very quickly, and I'll use my personal experience. I was working at a radio station when COVID hit, and I was immediately dispatched to my home to set up an impromptu studio. I incurred some of those costs myself, and we pegged it in the first month of working at home. Not every month, but in the first month, it cost me $900. The company did not reimburse me for that. They were unwilling to have a conversation about it. Employees, some of them, are shouldering more of a load here, whether it's higher speed internet, whether it's heating an area of the house they didn't have to heat before. Can people go to their employers and ask to redo their contracts, redo their deals, or can the employer fire back and say, you don't have to commute or pay for parking anymore, so we're not touching your deal?
I remember I said maybe 10 minutes ago, how you're treated during the pandemic by your employer. You're just echoing. I have heard tons of people say exactly the same thing. Okay. A lot of people have said, you know what, I've got costs. And my employer has been fabulous in that regard, saying you've had to incur this cost, this cost, this cost, this cost. We're going to reimburse you. And we're going to set up a special fund. But just listen to, your employer has to think very strongly about how they're treating you. I know people who've left employers because of what you're saying.
Dr. Linda Duxbury, an expert in balancing work and family in public and private sectors.
Oh, and just one last thing. You go negotiate right now. You tell them I said you should be reimbursed for that.
I'm gonna say senior and established professors at one of Canada's most prominent universities have demanded we renegotiate. Exactly, Linda. Is it okay if can I consider you a friend after this? Is that all right with you?
Absolutely. We'll have nachos together sometime.
I look forward to it.
That description was unreal.
Hey, it's what we do. It's what we do. Dr. Linda Duxbury out of Carleton University. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Hilarious. And hey, I noticed that it seemed to almost physically floor you, Hoyles, when she said that she's not sure that Sun Life, and maybe she's not talking specifically about Sun Life, but it's a good example where she said she's not sure that that's a great idea, that employers say, hey, to their employees, especially 12,000 of them, but yeah, you go ahead and pick whatever you want to do. Which for a lot of people, I would look at that and just off the cuff. I mean, I like I said, from an administrative standpoint, it seems like a pain in the ass, like big time.
Yeah, HR would be like, oh, are you kidding me?
But also, doesn't HR sometimes... Oh boy, do I want to walk into this one?
Do it.
Generally speaking, whether you work in HR or not, isn't it sometimes good when something arises to remind the rest of the departments why your department is important? Mm-hmm. Know what I mean? And if you're in HR, maybe that's preferable, people working at home or not, versus some of the other things that people in HR have to deal with. But why did you seemed shocked when she divulged that she wasn't sure that was a great idea? When you saw it on the surface, were you like me? Did you say, right on, Sun Life?
Yeah, that's exactly. I was like, woohoo, way to go. How how like forward thinking. And but then to hear that it was not about the laziness factor or productivity factor that she was concerned about, but the research is showing that people don't know it's the go-getters that are actually the ones that can burn out because they don't feel comfortable or have the boundaries to be able to say, no, I'm not working right now. It's 8 p.m. Oh, I'm going to close the door on my office.
I'm a little bit, I don't know why. I can't say this really because two of my colleagues are literally, appropriately distanced away from me, but relatively close. Here we are in a studio together. So, but let me say, anecdotally, when you see things like email notifications or Slack, anybody that uses Slack channels or things like that. And let me be clear, this is entirely within people's rights. And actually, we need to have conversations about better work-life balance. Right? A buddy of mine just this morning. Can I go off on a tangent for a second? Great. Okay, perfect. Thanks, everybody. Here I go. We're doing some planning in a group text because the fellas and I later this fall are going to go houseboating for the first time in a long time. And so there was a big announcement today regarding the booking of the watercraft, deposits that are required. And Buddy sent them out to the group like at 5:30 in the morning, like pretty early, right? And we heard some blowback from a couple of the guys that were like, did this really? And this is like on the group. And it's like a happy announcement about a houseboat. Like everybody cool your jets. But
all caps.
One fella in particular, very unhappy that his notification had woken him up and he did not deem that to be an appropriate time to be receiving a notification about a houseboat trip. And I wondered, as I say aloud, what I mean is I typed it out in mockery, are you aware that you can silence your phone? Are you aware that you can silence notifications? I guess you might say that I lacked sympathy in this circumstance. However, and here's one of the reasons why I'm a huge hypocrite, is when I'm typing things into Slack and I see that someone has muted or paused their notifications, I kind of, a little bit of, I'm just being honest, part of me goes, huh. Like they've kind of stepped away, right? But you know what that is? That's healthy.
Yeah.
It's healthy that people have paused their notifications. I, ideally, would have a phone that would shut off at 10 o'clock at night and would not turn on until 6 in the morning. Because I would not lay in bed doom scrolling or aimlessly, mindlessly scrolling or doing any other type of scrolling if I had a better sense of what a healthy work-life balance looked like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that we're special, but you know, in communications, in journalism, it's like
24 hours a day.
Yeah, you can't sleep. You can't sleep on a story. You can't. So it is that, but it's also like, but if I'm burnt out, I'm not going to be able to cover the story anyway.
You're not bringing your best to the business. And by the way, Sarah, Sam, I'm not talking about either of you. You know that. We do Slack with a lot of people. But do you pause notifications? I sometimes, I can certainly see why people should.
I do. It's actually like full disclosure. That is my favorite feature of Slack because it kind of is like putting your notifications on voicemail, so to speak.
Right.
You know, if I don't have any qualms about sending a Slack message to someone who has their notifications turned off. I'm just like, hey, they're in their off hours. They'll see this when they're ready, when they wake up, when they're back in work mode.
But not every CEO or general manager or executive director is going to say, my employees will get to this when they're ready. That's kind of not how it works, right?
No, there's and again, not here, not at all, but like
us
other
all protecting
organizations.
each other. Well, of course, never talking about this place.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you're right. There are some people that'll be like, if I emailed you at 6 p.m., you respond at 6:01.
Yeah, which is a totally unfair expectation.
Okay, I'm going to maybe blow the doors off of this one. But like sometimes if I can't get in touch with somebody, I will be like, okay, so they're not available on Slack.
So you text them.
Text, Twitter, DM. I'm like, where can I find them?
Yeah.
Which, again, not necessarily healthy.
I'm like Kelly. Kelly says my phone is on silent all the time. Says because notification sounds drive me nuts. Says granted, it's always within arm's reach, so I often can see the notifications pop up. Kelly, I'm exactly like you. I mean, you two we work together every single day. When's the last time you heard my phone ring? It does not ring. And people say, oh, like, you missed my call. Well, number one, why are you calling me?
Why are you calling?
Why are you ever calling me ever?
Don't call.
Unless my house is on fire or something major is happening. Major. You should never call. I want to start naming my friends that call me and then they leave voicemails. Like, I do not check my voicemail. I have never, it's never going to, oh my goodness, I got in shit at my last job because my voicemail message was literally, you have reached Ryan's desk for emergencies. Here's my producer's phone number. I do not check my voicemail. Kindly send me an email. Yeah. That was literally my voicemail message. And then sure enough, every once in a while, I mean, I got hauled into the office at some point. And they're like, because the boss called me trying to track me down one day and heard my voicemail for the first time. And it had been up there for months. So I get called in. He says, your voicemail message literally tells people you don't check your voicemail. I said, exactly. He said, well, you know, I'd like you to go check it and clean it out. So I checked and there were like 100 messages at least. It was going through like waste of time. No, waste of time. Delete. A friend of mine who leads a company, about 30 employees in Vancouver, told me the best thing he ever did was take voicemail off of his phone plan.
Yes.
If you call him, his phone will ring and ring and ring and ring, and you will not get him. And he told me that it's one of the best moves he's ever made. The world is changing, my friends.
I just love it when I get a phone call, usually my parents, and they're like, and they leave a message, and then I'll call them back. So you called me, and I'll get asked, so did you listen to the message?
Yeah, no.
No, I saw that you called. I'm calling you back.
Yeah, exactly. Haas has made an interesting point on the live chat here, and he says, and by the way, the live chat is like we said, the friendliest corner of the internet here. A shout out to Real Talkers who show up every single day on that chat. Some of them hard left-wingers, some of them hard right-wingers, some of them smack dab in the middle, and some of them not politically inclined at all, and have these decent, reasonable, respectful conversations. And Haas put what I think is a fair and good point. And he said that, you know, medical information is private. He says your vaccination status or your medical reality, I don't have his comment in front of me, but the spirit of it was your medical situation or reality is none of my business. Your health details are none of my business. So, for example, in the context of this, requiring vaccinations in the workplace, not anybody else's business. I actually disagree. I actually disagree. I think that if you had a highly contagious disease or illness, I think if you had, I don't know, what's an example, pink eye, you know, if you had pink eye and you decide you're one of those people that's like, I go to work when I have the sniffles. I haven't missed a day in 31 years. I've never called in sick. You know, I haven't missed a day. And you show up and you're touching the pens and the keyboards and using the coffee maker and all these, you know, the washroom door handle, because we know that no guy actually ever washes his hands after number one. That's just a fact. And then all of a sudden, like 11 people in the workplace have pink eye and take it home to their families, and then their kids get it. And then, Mrs. Jones's kindergarten class all has pink eye. And then all of a sudden you've got a real problem because somebody's private medical details were none of your business. I'm sure that there are holes that people could poke in my comparison, but I do think it is people's business in this circumstance. Oh my gosh, we have a comment about pink eye. James says, here's a real-world example. This is hilarious. He says, I got pink eye at my last job. My HR manager and supervisor sent me home until I was no longer infectious. How is a vaccination requirement any different? Okay, James, nailed it. Let me know what you think on this. Real Talk RJ is our hashtag. Sarah Hoyles is always keeping an eye on that. Of course, you know, it's powered by the team at Park Power. And right now at parkpower.ca, we want to remind you, you can compare rates when it comes to everything that they deliver. That's electricity, natural gas, and internet. You take a look at the electricity rates, and you know that this is the company that takes 10% of its profits on electricity and shares them with nonprofits in the community. You get to choose from a relatively long list. I think about 10 charities on there. Which one you want to divert the profits to? How cool is that? It's all part of being a community player. Their employees live where they work where they live, and they're proud to be a part of the machine that is Park Power. With the promo code 2021-Real Talk, they're going to give you $70 off your first bill at parkpower.ca. Also, big shout out to the team at Friesen Brothers. Their 16 Alberta locations, all in. This company for more than 65 years has been proudly promoting and working with Alberta producers. That means that it's Alberta milled flour in their famous sourdough. It means that their veg, their produce, as fresh as it can be year-round, whenever they can make it local. It is from Alberta, unless, of course, it's those BC cherries that everybody's so excited about right now. They're proudly supporting Alberta protein producers. They've got amazing vegan, vegetarian options. At their new South Edmonton store, they're keeping bees on the roof. Bees on the roof of Friesen Brothers, Alberta grown and Alberta owned. Hard swerve, everyone. Have you ever thought that your pet has what it takes to be famous? I'm not talking about everybody on the block knowing about your Chihuahua. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands or millions of Instagram followers. It is a thing. And what a thrill to catch up with the Harvard Law graduate, the founder of the dog agency, the author of How to Make Your Dog Famous, Loni Edwards, making her Real Talk debut. Welcome to the show, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Who do we have with you here in frame?
This is Emma. We need to get her a little booster seat because she doesn't really make it fully on frame. But
Oh my goodness, Emma's adorable. For everybody that's hearing this on the podcast, I'm assuming Emma is a French bulldog. Am I correct?
she is. Yes, that is correct.
Oh my goodness, and she is your best pal. Emma is your partner. Partner in crime. You guys live together. Emma is yours, so to, or you
Yes,
are.
yeah,
You
she
are.
sat in my lap as I wrote the book. She was part of it all.
Oh, no way. So how did can we start with your personal story? And then can we talk about how to make your dog famous? Because you don't have all your fancy framed degrees and diplomas and certifications behind you, but you are literally a Harvard Law graduate. You attended Cornell University. I mean, you've done a ton of stuff at Ivy League. This is big time. At what point did you personally say, Harvard Law is probably going to get me anywhere I want in the country, but I'm walking away from it? What happened?
Yeah. So after I graduated, I moved out to LA. I worked at a large law firm doing intellectual property litigation. And after about 6 months, decided I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial and creative. So I moved back to the East Coast, where I'm originally from, started a fashion company, got the utility patent on adding phone charging capabilities to bags, wallets, luggage. While doing that, I got a dog. The dog before this one, her name was Chloe. And that was in 2013. I put her on Instagram to share photos with friends and family, and she quickly became one of the first pet influencers. And that's when I realized this whole new world was starting to exist. And so I sold my last company in 2015 and decided to do the dog agency full time because I had been kind of helping influencers 2013, 2014 that had fallen into the space and were getting contracts from brands and weren't sure how best to navigate the space. And there was really no company that was putting together this new emerging pet influencer space. So decided to create the first one in 2015. And that's how the dog agency was born.
Wow. Can I just full disclosure, my wife doesn't prefer to be referenced as an influencer, but she's a content creator professionally. People can check out carrieskelton.com. It's what she does. I have a huge amount of respect for her work. And this, no matter which way you slice it, this is where marketing is going. This is where companies are investing in their advertising, et cetera. But there are still people, aren't there, Loni, that kind of roll their eyes at the word influencer. As a matter of fact, a lot of people that, in my mind, that don't have a hot clue what they're talking about, actually think they mock it. They think it's ridiculous. When did you know that this was for real? When did you know that this was literally where you were going to start building your empire?
Yeah. So when I saw it just happen naturally with my last dog, Chloe. So created the account initially just to share photos with friends and family. She quickly started getting these followers from all around the world. They would send messages about how the content would make them happy. It would just be the best thing in their day when they would open it up and see her smiling face. And then when brands started reaching out, and then I was seeing how fun it was to create content with them and how the brands were getting all these eyeballs and how it was just an incredible marketing tool because people love pets. They spread joy, they spread happiness. The content with the pets is very creative, that it just seems like this amazing new business opportunity that hadn't really been looked into yet. And so that's when I created the agency. And I think the people that say that make fun of it are probably just jealous that they're not in the space because it truly is the best job in the world, especially when you're doing with pets, because you're just hanging out with your furry best friend, having fun, playing, they're getting treats, you're taking cute photos, and you're just spreading joy around the world and helping brands share their messages.
Yeah, no kidding. But there's also a real science to it. I mean, I think that you're obviously doing an amazing job of kind of downplaying, or maybe not 100% digging into the work that goes into the aesthetic side of it and understanding what resonates with people. There's a real science. I mean, I'm looking at, Chloe the Mini Frenchie. May she rest in peace. What a beautiful girl here. But I mean, the blue check mark, 160,000 followers. This is next level kind of stuff. What's the secret? What set this account apart, or what was it about your approach, do you think, that really resonated?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of work that goes into creating these accounts. When we created it, me and Chloe, we the pet influencers were not really a thing. So we didn't kind of come into it with this plan on how we were going to do this well and kind of think about building the brand. Whereas now a lot of people are, and that's kind of what this book helps. So that helps you with the road to fame. So the steps. So number one, obviously, is figuring out if this world is a fit for you. Do you enjoy creating content? Do you have the time to be responding to people, responding to DMs, responding to comments? Does your pet like being a part of it? So do they like posing for photos? Does the camera scare them? Do they like getting dressed up? So step one is definitely making sure that it's a fit for you and your pet. Then you want to come up with your brand. So what is your account going to be about? Is your account going to be about travel? Is it going to be about fashion? Is it going to be funny? Is it going to be heartwarming? Is it about supporting a cause? How important rescue is, for example, or special needs pets? So figuring out what your messaging, what your brand is, staying cohesive to that. If you can train your pet, that's super helpful too, because then you can get them to sit and pose, and it's easier to create the content if you have a really good rapport with them and a good bond. You want to create, obviously, content that is engaging. So whether that's photos, videos, if the captions are engaging, if the content is just very beautiful. So figuring out how to create good quality content, how to edit your photos, how to edit your videos, building that community. So having people actually follow you, care what you have to say, engaging with them, just like you build a community in real life. You want to respond to these people. You want to show them that you care what they have to say. Once you kind of establish that base around 50,000 followers, that's when you want to start getting representation. So what we do at the dog agency, have someone connect you with brands, help you think about how best to grow your brand. Is it time for you to try doing a book deal, releasing merchandise? What is the next step for you? And just really growing from there.
How do you decide? Like, if I say to you, hey, listen, and by the way, our dogs do have Instagram accounts. This is probably a perfect opportunity for me to be pumping their tires. But if I get in touch with you, Loni, and I say, I know that you're the biggest deal and you're the CEO of the dog agency, right? We should also point out that you're the founder and CEO of PetCon, which is huge. And we'll talk about that. But if I say I've got this boxer that looks like he's always unimpressed, and he's got this very regal stance, and he loves to, he shows off. He trots when we watch him, and he knows he's such a handsome boy, and he flexes when he walks. And then we've got this sweetheart black lab who has this wonderful head tilt. And I'm saying to you, hey, Loni, I would love representation for Moses and Monroe. We certainly do not have 50,000 followers. How do you decide who you're going to rep and who you're not?
Yeah, so we look for, so number one is definitely that following, because when we're bringing on influencers, we want to make sure that they have that engaged audience that cares about what they say, that listens to them, that follows, and that they'll be marketable to brands. So that's that floor we need, just to show that there's marketability there. There are eyeballs. There's a dedicated audience. Getting to that level is kind of building the brand, making it so there's a reason for people to follow you, whether the reason is that you spread joy, that you provide information, that you make them laugh. And so it seems like you have a good brand that you have an idea for. So I think just leaning into that and really coming up with the voices for them that really leans into those feelings that you just explained, and kind of building the brand around that would be that next step to get to that following.
All right, good stuff. I just had to check in. I had to update it, and I can tell you that Mo and Ro are now at 146 followers. So we've got some room to grow here. You can follow them, by the way, at Mo and Ro _. Look at this shameless plug. But Loni, that's what you're going to tell me to do, right? I mean, I've got to find a way to get them to 50K, so you'll start to pay. So you'll hear us out.
Exactly. Yeah. So getting that visibility is definitely important. So using whatever avenues you have to let people know about the account, having content on there that once they find the account makes them want to stay, click the follow button, see more is definitely part of the process.
Do you rep cats and birds and snakes and iguanas?
Yes, the name's a little misleading. We were originally just dogs, hence the name. We quickly expanded to include cats. Now we have all kinds of specialty animals. We have celebrity ducks and toads and pigs and even some humans like celebrity veterinarians in our roster. So we've really expanded.
It's absolutely amazing. So let me ask the question everybody wants to know, but it feels a little bit rude. But I mean, can people get rich doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. We have clients that are making 10 to 15,000 per Instagram post. So
What?
there is a lot of money to be had.
Wow. But you've got to be, now you're talking about people with 100,000 followers probably, right?
We're talking large following. So people that are around like 1 million followers,
Okay.
are the ones that are commanding those numbers per post. However, there's also many influencers are doing many posts, and they're doing other things like merchandise, book deals. There's other revenue streams. There's print ads. There's appearances. So the Instagram posts are just one piece of that bigger puzzle.
So cool. Now, one of the things that I found is really interesting, and I thought we could maybe get into some of the animals that you represent. Yeah. I know that Lilybug's such a good girl, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about Lilybug a little bit?
Yeah, so Lilybug's amazing. She's been a client for a while. Her account's great because they spread awareness. There's a lot of stigma around bully breeds, and they do a really great job about showing how sweet they are and really getting rid of that stigma. And so they're an incredible account. They have amazing engagement. Marissa the human appears in the content a lot, which is great as well. So sometimes the accounts have the pet and the human. Sometimes it's just the pets. Sometimes the whole family is involved with kids. So there's a lot of different types of ways to go about it.
Sarah Hoyles is the producer of this show. Can I put you on the spot for a second, Hoyles?
Sure.
Can you tell Loni about the connection between Lilybug and your beloved Ranger? This is so cool, Loni.
I'm kind of fangirling right now. So Lilybug posted Ranger's photo because he was at the animal control centers in New York City. And he was going to be put down because he had a doggy cold. And so she posted about him, and I'm way far and away from New York City, like a long way. And I was like, that dog is beautiful. But I also felt like, that's my dog, which seems totally bananas. Anyways, long and short of it is, I worked with the foster, got him flown to Seattle. I drove from here, which is a 13-hour drive, to go and pick him up in Seattle, and drove him home. And now Ranger the Doggo 99 on Instagram is Canadian now.
How cool is that?
And that's from Lilybug posting about him. He's also a bully breed. He's a big old blockhead.
Yeah. So cool.
We had a whole session on bully breeds at our digital pet con in December. Lilybug was on it, Pirate the Pitbull, Bronson the Bully. We had Kelly Cuoco on as well as like our celebrity guest, talking about how sweet and lovable they are.
Very cool. Isn't that neat? I mean, what a connection that Lilybug introduces Ranger to the internet, and now Ranger is with the producer of this show, and you're repping Lilybug. I love those kinds of stories. Super Scooty has quite a story. Super Scooty is a survivor.
Yeah, so I think that's another great thing about this world is that there's so many amazing stories that come through with these influencers, and people that wouldn't necessarily think to rescue a special need pet are seeing how lovable and how much life they have and how incredible they are to have as a pet. And so that's another great thing about these pet influencers, that they really remove all of these barriers that people might have when thinking about adopting pets with special needs. So they're another incredible account.
Can you and for people that are listening, Super Scooty, the story is hit by a car, right? Is in Mexico and was kind of like dragging the hind legs, and now has one of those the wheeled contraptions. Dogs are just so. I mean, animals are so resilient. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, they are. And we have a lot of. I know you guys are in Canada. We have a bunch of influencers in Canada too. I don't know so Tika the Iggy, obviously, I feel like everyone knows is Canadian. Crusoe, the celebrity dachshund, is another huge Canadian. Crusoe has 7 million followers.
7 million.
Yeah, Tika has about 2.5 million, also Canadian. Charlie the Black Shepherd is in Canada. Total following is around 800,000. Lizzie Bear is also Canadian, about 500,000 followers. So yeah, there's a ton of huge accounts in Canada.
For people that are going to see this on YouTube either now or later, I want to put up a photo of Tuna, the account Tuna Melts My Heart, because it leads into a question, and I guess here the point being, Tuna is like, I want to hang out with Tuna. Tuna kind of looks like a dog that you'd expect to start talking. I don't know even what that means, but it just looks like Tuna would be a dog that could talk. They're not like, this is a bit of a prick thing to say, but like not the let me say this. I'll put it in a positive interpretation. Just because a dog has some bald spots or is a little portly or a little thin or has an overbite or an underbite or is not a purebred does not mean they cannot be a celebrity. As a matter of fact, it almost seems like it could be the opposite.
Yeah, that's exactly true. So whatever is unique about your pet, lean into that. If they have a unique look, if there's a special story, share that story, open up with your community. And yeah, Tuna's a great example of that. Definitely not like objectively the cutest dog, but has a very unique look that has really allowed Tuna to become incredibly famous. And that's something they talk about in the book as well.
No kidding. The book, of course, How to Make Your Dog Famous, A Guide to Social Media and Beyond. Loni Edwards is the author of that book. Also, as mentioned, founder and CEO of the Dog Agency, founder and CEO of PetCon. We've been talking in different contexts with dozens of people about emerging from the pandemic, and as we look back on what was and we look ahead to what is, there are certainly pet implications, aren't there? A lot of people have brought pets into their lives through this pandemic. Some people are concerned that could be the so-called Beethoven effect. After the movie came out, everybody got big St. Bernards, and then all of a sudden they became 180 pounds and nobody knew what to do with them. St. Bernard rescues were born, and people can research that if they want to read more. Loni, what's your perspective on the pandemic's impact on the world of pets?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people definitely got more pets because they were at home. They had more time on their hands. They wanted that affection and that unconditional love that you get from a pet. And now as people are starting to go back to the workforce, hopefully they have made plans for how they're going to take care of their pets, how they're going to adjust their pets to the transition. Because previously they were home 24/7. Now they're maybe not going to be home as much. So just figuring out how to do that transition, which is the best way to do that is to kind of start taking little bits of time apart from the pets so that they adjust more slowly, as opposed to just like from 0 to 100 being home all the time and then just being gone most of the day. So leaving the pet alone, like in a safe space, obviously, for a few hours at a time so that they get comfortable with that, slowly increasing the amount of time so that they get adjusted back to that parent going to work environment.
So cool. This is just, I love it. You must, never a dull moment. I'm sure you've probably heard all the cliches about what you do for work, but I just, it's just the coolest. And I love how it found you. You allowed yourself, you moved across the country and then you moved back and you allowed you followed your heart and you followed your interest. And in so many ways, as this is a story about how to make your dog famous, it's your story too, Loni, and I totally love it. What does the future look like for you? It seems to me like sky's the limit. When you see new things pop up, so, previously, I don't know if Pets ever had an account on like MySpace or anything like that, but I guess, Instagram's obviously a huge one. Now, probably TikTok. Like, yeah, where do you see absolutely. Where do you see it going?
Yeah, TikTok's been huge. We've had accounts go crazy viral. Tika, the Canadian pup that we talked about, went crazy viral from a video on TikTok. And that's really what skyrocketed Tika to incredible fame. And so TikTok's been really fun to watch. A lot of videos on there have gone really viral that have led to huge fame for pets that has carried over to their other channels like Instagram. And so that's been great. And there's just always new things happening. This industry is so young. And it's just a really exciting place to be, seeing how much it's grown. People's love of pets isn't going anywhere. That's just continued to strengthen year after year. The industry for pets, when I started, it was virtually impossible to find cute dog clothes for Chloe. And now there's like unlimited fashion brands for pets. There's human grade dog food that's easy to find. There's the amount of products that have been created for this industry has just been growing, and the industry is just still so young and there's so much potential, and it's just exciting to see which new pets pop up, what new things pop up in the space, and just continuing to grow with it.
Yeah, no kidding. We had Gary the Adventure Cat joined us a couple of days ago with his human. And we were just marveling. When you talk about sort of nicer clothing or human, one of our key partners here is at Quality Raw Food, Grand Dog Essentials. It's amazing. People invest in their pets because they're their family members. But Gary's wardrobe, this Adventure Cat. We had so many messages from people being like, his parkas are way nicer than ours. He's got custom harnesses. He's got ski goggles. I mean, just absolutely incredible stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, they truly are the new children.
Yeah. Loni, congratulations on your success to this point. We're obviously gonna continue to watch this trajectory and find joy in all of these clients of yours that you represent. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
One note, read the book. We're donating 100% of the pre-order proceeds to charity. So if people go to the Dog Agency Instagram and they list their favorite causes, we're going to announce the 3 winners on Friday, who we're going to donate all the money to. So
wow,
I wanted to announce that as well.
Very cool stuff. I'm so glad you jumped in to mention that, Loni. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Yeah, you got it. Loni Edwards, author of How to Make Your Dog Famous. You have not, Sarah Hoyles, bragged at all since you joined us a couple of months ago. I had no idea that Ranger the Doggo 99 has almost 1,700 Instagram followers.
Yeah.
What's the secret to Rangers?
He's just the big. I mean, I'm super biased, so
Is it
where do I start?
is it in part due to the fact you think that he's a pit bull, and your photos are showing him like just looking absolutely fabulous and wonderful and approachable and with sun hats on and like look at the work that you've done with him. Walking in the beach and swimming. I mean, these are amazing. Do you think it has to do with the breed a little bit? Do you get a lot of accounts that engage with you that are other bully breed owners?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pity piece is definitely a part of it. Rescue is another thing.
Right, rescue's a compelling story.
Yeah, and I mean, look at him. He's the handsome boy. I have a thing where he's obsessed with sticks. So he has a daily stick. He has to find his stick of the day.
Right.
I don't know.
Is this? I'm just operating in stereotypes here, but
okay.
Is his stick of the day like otherwise known as like a Swedish aspen?
Yes,
it's like,
the bigger the better.
Uprooted with his. Just carries. Oh, Ranger's got himself another stick, a 35-foot Swedish aspen.
He does not have any like spatial awareness either. So shins and knees, back of your knees. I've had some bruising.
Oh, he's a good boy.
He means well though.
He's a good boy. Do you think he knows that you rescued him? Do you think he gets it? Some people swear. Some people swear that their rescue knows that they were rescued. These are always the videos that make me cry like a baby. Like these are the ones where it's like, someone says, I went to the animal shelter. These are always, you hear from journalists all the time.
Yeah.
I went to the animal shelter to do a story on, and then look what followed me home. Yeah. And it's always because the dog found the human and came up and introduces them. The dog introduces themselves or the cat or whatever and says, I'm so dismissive. Oh my gosh. Or the cat or whatever. But you know
Python,
what I mean?
as we talked about, or a boa constrictor.
If the python's finding you, that's not, but you know what I mean? And then you hear interviews of these people a year later, and it's always on these inspirational internet accounts, and I follow them all, and I end up in an emotional mess in a good way. And it's always like the dog was like mangy and had fleas and was undernourished and had been abused and was used as in dog fighting and then a year later, look at them now, and they're running around in the dandelions, and the human will always say, I think she knows she was rescued.
I mean, I think he has baggage because he was abandoned in an apartment. That's where he was found.
Oh, man.
The people moved out. I mean, maybe they weren't able to pay their rent. I don't know. Came on hard times. So trying not to judge.
Yeah.
So he's a little bit clingy, but that's how I like him. And he's, I mean, when people are like, well, maybe I'm monopolizing on him, but really it's just like, as someone pointed out the other day, like, I love the shit out of this dog.
Yeah.
So if I get to share him and other people think that he's like a tenth of how great I think he is, then that's awesome. And I love when people are like, he's a good boy, he's a cute boy. Then I'm like, yeah, he is.
Yeah. I'm seeing some interesting commentary. I'm just dropping in on our live chat. So I may be mischaracterizing some of the comments. People are piling. I don't get this. This actually drives me crazy. But people that are sort of like that mock the influencer culture, the content creator culture without understanding kind of what it is. It's the new advertising, and it's where advertising is going. And Craig says, I don't know. He says, this just depresses me for some reason. It seems like selling yourself and your dog for profit. Now, Craig says it's just not for me is all, which is fine. And I see that Terry leaves a comment here and says, using family members, talking about animals, using family members for profit isn't cool. Every family that owns a restaurant, every family that owns a laundromat, every family that owns a business, every family that every family that farms, every family that I don't really understand it, and I don't understand how it's a bad thing to create an Instagram account for your pet that brings joy to people, that can also drive commerce. Someone said here, I saw in our live chat, here's Chad says, at what point do we discuss how this increases consumption on a planet that can't carry the burden? Like, really? Like, dogs on Instagram is the number one problem that's driving consumption that's unsustainable on planet Earth? I don't really get it. People say, imagine someone else here, Michelle says, everyone needs a little frivolity in their lives, be frivolous every once in a while, but if people put this kind of energy into causes like climate change or drug addiction or homelessness, think of what we could do. Sure, and what we would also do is burn out in about 11 days. I know this because I've hosted talk shows for 15 years, and someone will drop in on a talk show and say, you guys are talking about making dogs famous when all hell is breaking loose in politics, and this is happening and that's happening, and kids are dying of malaria, and babies are being born with AIDS, and we don't have school lunch programs, and you're talking about fucking famous dogs? Yeah, because we also talk about a million other things. And every once in a while, an audience, let alone a host, will become exhausted all the time focusing on everything that's wrong with the world. And one of the things that brings me joy are accounts like this, where I can go and lose myself for a little bit. Ever since I watched My Octopus Teacher, I've been following like 15 octopus accounts on Instagram. My Instagram right now is just basically octopuses, not octopi, as we know, thanks to you, Hoyles.
For me, people can say that pet accounts are frivolous and they don't amount to much. But I would push back on that in that the connection, the bond, the unconditional love that pets provide for us as humans is... Like I say a lot of times that I prefer pets to people. They're easier to be around.
No, you tell us that every day, Sarah.
Yeah.
You
When I come into the office every day, I'm like, I like my pets way better than you two.
Sandra says, be calm, Jesperson. If I'm not calm, you will know it, my friends. But people are saying I'm missing the point. Let me know, what am I missing? What's the point that I'm missing? I don't understand the point that I'm missing. Sharon says, let people have their happiness. We need some of this love right now with our fur babies. Let me know. Hey, if I'm missing the point, like I said, I dropped in on the live chat. I just see a bunch of people piling on Instagram or content creators. Jen says, we need to refill our buckets. Amen, Jen. It's one of my favorite books of all time about how people can fill each other's buckets. A wonderful children's book. So you can let me know what I'm missing about the point. I love to have these conversations, more than open to the conversations. And if I'm totally missing it and I'm misinterpreting your comments, everyone, I will gladly eat my words. That's coming up tomorrow, by the way, presented by Prairie Catering. That's coming up tomorrow. The team at Grand Dog Essentials, this is a perfect time to remind you that they're providing quality raw food for their customers, their clients. Let's call them their partners, all the way across the province, with doorstep deliveries in Edmonton, Calgary, and Central Alberta. 10% off with the promo code REALTALK. 10% off your first order at granddog.ca. But check out, while you're on their website, their blog. They've got a great resource there, including Raw Dog Food Safety 101. 7 tips to keep you and your dog safe. If you love seeing things, with your dog, we see it in Monroe's coat. We see it with Moses's digestive health. That's a very polite way of talking about poop. Raw food's great, but if you don't do it right, it can be unhealthy for the pet, can be unhealthy for the humans. You got to do it right. That's why Grand Dog is so focused on educating those that are investing in their pets. You can learn more at granddog.ca. Also wanted to remind you that the team at Westworld Computers is taking orders right now, not just for new sales, but of course they've got the gently pre-owned, refurbished, re-warrantied Mac lineup, and of course a service department with more than 40 years experience. That's right, Westworld Computers, family-owned for more than 4 decades. They are proudly equipping the Real Talk studio, have been since day one. You can learn more at westworld.ca. An interesting statement from MLA Leela Ahir. For those members of our audience that pay attention to Alberta politics, you'll likely, of course, know the name. A popular MLA, a former Wild Rose Party MLA, and a prominent member of the United Conservative Party caucus. Up until a short time ago, she was Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism, and the Status of Women, although I'll probably blow the title because these titles change all the time. Under different premiers, under different governments, it's not unusual to see the names of ministries changed. And obviously, we've seen that ministry's name change with that cabinet shuffle last week.
I know that it can just be seen as like it's logistical. We're just shifting things around. But I mean, to remove the status of women from the title of a ministry when half of your population is women? I mean, I can hear people saying like, well, what about the status of men? Okay, fair.
Why don't we get White History Month?
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't we get the White Entertainment Awards? Why don't we get,
So to me, I just am, come on.
Now they're going to
do better.
Devil's advocate or flip side or point counterpoint, the government will say, but there's an associate minister for status of women that will report to the Minister of Culture. Right now, Minister Ron Orr, and so the focus is not taken away, and we'll have strong focus on that. That's what the government will say. What was most notable, I think, about this cabinet shuffle was that Leela here now, back to MLA Ahir as opposed to Minister Ahir, was one of the more prominent voices, probably the most prominent voice, I would say, in the Conservative caucus provincially that had called on the Premier to apologize to Albertans for the so-called liquor cabinet incident where Jason Kenney, a few high-profile ministers and others, Travis Taves, Jason Nixon, Tyler Shandro, were gathered on the mezzanine, another great word, mezzanine, gathered on the mezzanine of the Sky Palace having supper. The optics of it were bad. Leela here said it deserved an apology. Albertans were Albertans were owed an apology. And ultimately, I don't know if you can draw a direct line, but I think you can probably say that was one of the things that factored into her being booted out of cabinet. Well, here's the deal. A statement out this morning, about 6:40 this morning Mountain Time, says, congratulations, it opens. This is somewhat of a form letter, obviously, I think, that went out to supporters of Leela's. Congratulations to all Albertans. We're the first province in Canada to lift all health restrictions and fully reopen the economy. Because of your diligence, brighter days are definitely ahead. So it opens very positively. To be honest with you, when I read the first sentence, I went, not what I was hoping for. This isn't going to lead the headlines on Real Talk today. Too bad. It's positive, so we'll bury it an hour and a half in. I kid. But she goes on to say, I want to let you know I'm here to stay. Says, I'm a founding member of the United Conservative Party, a movement that saw so many diverse and divided Conservatives and amazing Albertans come together to provide the province with hope and prosperity. She says, our values lie in our diversity, no matter where you came from, the color of your skin, who you pray to, or who you love. She says, I want to thank the Premier for the privilege of serving the people of Alberta. No greater privilege than serving the interests of the people who elected me to govern. I'm humbled. I'm full of gratitude and pride for the many accomplishments in our ministry. I wish the new ministers great success as they begin their work. That can't be easy to write, right? It can't be easy to put out. She says, I intend to continue to work hard on behalf of my constituents and all people in Alberta. Resilience is in our blood. Passion is in our hearts. And we don't sit on the sidelines. We get to work. That from MLA Leela Sharon Ahir. That statement this morning.
That's incredible. And I say that just because, I'm the sentiments in there don't necessarily, they're not congruent. They don't reflect what I'm seeing the party and the leadership of that party, ultimately the Alberta government leadership right now, showing in their decisions. Maybe
this is the early quasi-announcement of a potential leadership run a couple years down the line. Hey, look how she handled it when she was kicked to the curb. Look at how she kept it positive. Look at how she focused on what drives her. Look at how she defined or laid out her accountability. To whom is she accountable? Right?
So this is a big picture, long term.
This is Leela here is the type of, we're going to get in the weeds here a little bit, but I think even if you're listening from Ontario or Manitoba or Newfoundland, I think that you probably would know the name Derek Fildebrandt. a former high-profile MLA, a former, or is he still? Is he still? No, he's not leader of the Freedom Conservative Party anymore, right? He was publishing Western Standard. He's been on the show before.
Because he said he was leaving the Freedom Conservative Party.
Yeah, and
when
then
he didn't get elected,
and then they merged, right? And so now it's Freedom and Wild Rose Independence Party, and Paul Hinman's leading, if I remember correctly.
I
think so. Yeah, it's tough to. I noticed that Peter, what's his face, the guy that was the leader of the Wexit Party of Alberta, the guy that was like kicked out of the RCMP for a bunch of stuff, allegations around domestic violence. You can do that. Peter
Salt of the Earth gentleman.
Dowring or Gold? No, not Peter Goldring. That's the conservative that wouldn't do the breathalyzer after he left the event.
So many names. So many people.
The other, I'm not trying to be funny or glib. I'm actually having a hard time. Peter something. But anyway, I saw that he's seeking leadership of this party. Not the point. The point is that Derek Fildebrandt was a high-profile conservative provincial politician for a while following his term as a relatively high-profile antagonist for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and a lot of people were wondering what was going to happen in Chestermere Strathmore because Derek Fildebrandt was running against Leela Ahir. And people thought, well, Fildebrandt and this Freedom Conservative Party, I mean, they're obviously going to win that riding. That's what a lot of people thought. Well, so they'll have at least one seat in the legislature, and it's going to be great for news, and it's going to be great for the 6 o'clock headlines because Derek Fildebrandt's great at sound bites. Well, Leela Ahir absolutely trounced him. Trounced him in the 2019 Alberta general election back in April of 2019. She took 69% of the vote, 15,500 votes. Derek Fildebrandt finished a distant third with 7% of the vote, 1,600 votes. 200 votes more than Jason Avramenko of the Alberta Party, and about half of the votes that Melissa Langmaid earned for the New Democrats. So do not underestimate Leela Ahir's popularity. Do not underestimate her support base. Do not underestimate her political savviness. I believe, let me rephrase, I do not believe for 1 second that this is her just saying, okay, yeah, that's fine. No problem. Great. Thanks, everybody. I don't believe it for 1 second. I think that we're going to hear that name surface again. I don't know the context specifically. I'm not making any specific calls. But I think that were this party to see over the next couple of years before the next provincial election a change in leadership, I think that it would make sense to see Leela Ahir's name among the contenders, and I think she could be a formidable contender. Now, we have heard, you're CC'd on the emails. Any email you sent to us to talk@ryanjesperson.com, you know that when she was given her walking papers, when she was deministried, when the cabinet shuffle happened and she was booted out of cabinet, we did hear from some people, artists and creators, that said, I mean, we're not sure that Minister Ron Orr is going to be great for culture, but a couple of musicians in particular said we're not sure that he'll be a whole lot worse. People were critical of the job that she did in that ministry. I've seen some women prominently on Twitter, and take it for what it's worth. But I know that some people have taken real swipes at her. They didn't feel like she did what she could in that cabinet, let alone in that caucus when it came to being a voice for women. Whether that's fair or not, these are people's personal feelings and their personal convictions, and that's fine. And it's tough to be in government, and it's tough to be a minister. But I thought that I don't know what people were expecting. You've got a couple, United Conservative MLAs right now that are sitting as independents, right? They're booted out. Drew Barnes, Todd Lowen. They certainly have not crossed to the NDP. They've not sort of indicated any desire to seek the leadership of the Alberta Party or any of the other more fringe conservative parties. But Leela here could be an interesting one to watch and an interesting one to keep an eye on. And I would love to hear from those of you that are really paying attention to this, or maybe that have your ear to the ground, what your speculation might be. Hawes says Derek Fildebrandt proved himself to be a hypocrite. People voted against him as opposed to for Leela, which also could be a great point. I mean, Derek Fildebrandt has a long history of almost comical type political challenges. So there you have it. Every Wednesday, it is our absolute distinct pleasure. I mean, this is one of the real treats for us as we hit the midway point of the week to partner up with our friends at Tourism Jasper to present MyJasper Memories. And we invite you right now for a couple of minutes to join us for a trip to the mountains, so to speak. Now, yeah, right now the weather's absolutely stunning out in Jasper, and people are going to be getting out onto some of their favorite hikes, whether it's up to Berg Lake or somewhere else. But keep in mind, Jasper National Park is home to the world-renowned Columbia Icefield. This is a sea of ice covering over 300 square kilometers, perched on the Continental Divide. It's called a hydrological apex. Another great band name, Hydrological Apex. It feeds water to all 3 of Canada's oceans. How cool is that? It's an easily accessible, they describe it as a tongue of ice flowing from the massive ice field, provides a really unique opportunity to explore an actively changing glacier. So, although anybody can follow the gravel trail that leads to the tip of the glacier, if you've been, you know that only certified guides and the people that they escort are actually allowed to traverse the surface because, quite frankly, it's dangerous. Rockaboo Mountain Adventures is one of Jasper's longtime guiding heavyweights, and you must check out their Athabasca Glacier Tour, one of the latest additions to their daily programs. You can ice climb in the winter, you can rock climb in summer. Trips run from June 1st to September 30th. They're running right now, and they focus on small groups, efficient travel, and even the opportunity to descend into ice caves. Yeah, that's right, using ropes. How cool is this? Bring warm clothes. It doesn't matter what time of year you're there. It's often much colder, even in the middle of the summer. It's a little bit chillier on the glacier than it is in the town of Jasper, so keep that in mind. We want to remind you that if you would love to see or learn more about this wonderful feature, MyJasper Memories, you can check out jasper.travel/realtalk. It allows you to discover Jasper, learn more about things to do, where to stay, helps you plan your trip. Plus, you can look back on all of the past episodes of MyJasper Memories, including really cool photo contests, features on patios, all kinds of cool stuff. We also encourage you, and it's amazing to see what's happening here. This is a relatively new partnership for us, and this has become a thing. And no doubt every Wednesday, after you're inspired by this, we start getting photos. We encourage you to hashtag MyJasper and Real Talk RJ. We got an amazing message from Bob. Bob said, "Hey, Real Talkers, last week we took our mountain trip through Jasper. Mother Earth blessed us with so many gifts." Says we were able to climb Moline Canyon. We had lunch at Medicine Lake. Sam, you know the photo I'm talking about here because Bob hiked in a Jespo Pisco Sour by Sea Change Brewing. Well done. Well done. I should probably remind you that Jasper Brewing Co. also does pretty phenomenal stuff. I never miss a pint anytime I'm out there. Let me tell you that. He says, on the way back, there was a black bear. Bob says, so close to the road, we could have pet it, but they didn't. Also a good idea, Bob. Says we stayed in the car, kept our distance, took the photo after he moved a bit, but later the same day in the evening, we had the exact same thing happen with an elk. This reminds me of our feature last week talking about the wildlife in Jasper. How cool is this? So Bob says the third day we, of course, stopped at the wondrous Athabasca Falls. Says I could listen to those falls all day. Kind enough to even send us a video, Bob. Amazing. He says, we moved on to Lake Louise, left Jasper National Park, and says, and again, we were blessed by nature. We saw what they call a white grizzly. He says the locals call Nakota, which means friend. Look at this bear. I know that a lot of people are listening to the podcast right now. You have to go check out these photos that Bob sent us. You can find it, of course, on our YouTube channel. You know what I'm going to do? I'll tweet that one out because that's.
It's a white. Is it a?
Well, they call them spirit bears on the West
Spirit
Coast.
bears.
I don't know if they call them that in Jasper National Park. We can find. Well, ask the team at Tourism Jasper. They're always helping us understand more about the wondrous elements of this park.
Because it's not a black bear. It's not a brown bear. The fur is white.
And
it's not a polar bear.
It stops you in your tracks.
Yeah.
Bob, I'm so grateful you shared this with us. He says there were so many other highlights of the trip, including the profound sharing circle with the warrior women. He says we heard about this on Real Talk when you were talking about Jasper's Indigenous history. He says, I highly recommend that experience. Bob says, I hope everybody gets the chance to get out there to Jasper, enjoy it as much as we did, and receive many of nature's blessings. He signs off, peace and love. That from Bob. Amazing. Again, jasper.travel/real talk. MyJasper Memories. I always just want to leave the studio and go to Jasper when this is done.
Yeah,
It's sort of like, I know we're going to talk about other things, but I kind of just want to go.
Grab a Pisco Sour.
Grab a Pisco Sour and get moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, get moving. Absolutely beautiful stuff. We've received so many emails, and we want to get to some of those before the show is up, but we also wanted to remind you that our question of the week this week is now up at ryanjesperson.com. As you know, our official research and strategy partners present this every week, and this week we're asking you, across Canada, about 2 weeks in now, in Alberta, almost zero COVID-related restrictions. Saskatchewan has lifted its restrictions. Ontario loosening over the next few days. And other provinces also have, plans when it comes to a total reopening over the coming weeks and months. In this week's Get Real, our question of the week, we thought we'd check in with you and ask how's it going so far, and how are you feeling about the new, we're saying restriction-free world. And I think that this is going to be an interesting one. Of course, we'll review this early next week. If you support us on Patreon, details on that on our website, you know that you'll be getting the top line report exclusively. You can read through. Last week's was 19 pages of curated data. Really fascinating stuff. Do either of you have a forecast? Do either of you have a prediction on where Real Talkers are going to land? I get the sense that this audience, in some cases, the audience is almost collectively the same. It seems to me when it comes to things like empathy, or when it comes to curiosity, this audience seems to hold these character traits in common. But we see oftentimes great differences as well in the dynamic of this audience. Any predictions on where this data is going to go, or what's it going to tell us about where people are at mentally?
I think it's going to be split.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like 33% think this, 33 think this, 33 think this. Sam, what do you think? You want to go on the record with a crystal ball prediction?
I don't have a crystal ball prediction, but I think that I can extrapolate from my own life, and that I've been to a few stores, stopped in at my favorite brewery for a pint yesterday, and it was weird seeing all the plexiglass taken down.
Yeah,
it was weird. And I still, my mask is still sitting right here. I pop it on my face every time I get up from my desk, and I'm 3 weeks past my second shot.
Yeah.
And maybe part of it's just habit forming. Maybe part of it's just sort of a comfort level. I've been noticing over the last couple weeks this sort of step down when you go into stores that, the day after the restrictions were lifted, there was almost no change. Everybody still had a mask on. And now it's kind of about 50-50. And so I think that there's people are building their comfort level slowly.
Yeah. People actually, a couple of audience members have been in touch with the show asking how much longer we're going to keep the plexiglass in, which I thought was an interesting inquiry. We have from November 23rd, from our very first show, we have only known plexiglass. And we added plexiglass, Sarah, when you joined us, to obviously, keep the place not just compliant, but also we wanted to be comfortable and feel like we were doing our part and everything there. Now, I'm not sure I really want to get rid of it. It sort of, in a sense, and I've heard the same thing from some friends. One of my buddies, Blair, told me that he thinks that, he says for the foreseeable future he's going to wear a mask. He thinks pretty much every time he goes out in public. He was talking specifically about grocery shopping, but then we started talking about other things. And he goes, he said, I don't know. He said, people can tell me reasons why I should or shouldn't, or people clap back or smirk at me, or he says, I don't care. I feel more comfortable. So he's going to wear it. I don't know. I mean, we call my garage the cabin. It's where the guys come over and throw darts and we can smoke cigars without me having the locks changed on my house. But I've had, 3 or 4 as we've been able to gather in there. If we're throwing darts, for example, a big pump of hand sanitizer there, everybody uses their own darts. By the table, and these are little things that didn't used to be that way. I would never let anybody use my darts, but still, there was the boys would always crack on me because there were like my darts and then the communal darts. And the communal darts were the ones that came with the dartboard. Like, they're just absolute junk.
But then I'm sure you said, hey, guys, you're more than welcome to bring your own darts.
Like, you may have heard
I'm
of
not
it.
holding you back.
Right? But I don't think they want to be like the guy that shows up with, everyone thinks it's a piccolo, but it's really a pool cue. The guy that shows up at the bar with his own pool cue. I don't think they want to be that guy.
Before.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that either.
I've definitely brought my own pool cue before.
Hey, don't you let anybody ever crack on you for bringing your own pool cue.
I'm gonna.
What weight of cue do you? What weight of cue do you like, Sam?
I think mine's a 21.
20. I'm a 20 weight. Okay, I like because you found your
a little
cue.
more heft. Yeah,
a little more like on the brake. You can really crank it. But so here's the point. So I'm tidying up the cabin because we're gonna have some visitors in the next couple of days, and I was looking around, and I had a moment. This was just last night where I was like, do I still leave all the hand sanitizer out? And then I thought, Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
It makes no sense to get rid of it. And if anything, I mean, I know that there are some conversations people have about, we can lose our resistance. Like it can actually harm you. There are theories that it can harm your immune system if you're constantly using hand sanitizer. People always say anecdotally, there's a reason why farm kids aren't getting sick as much is because they've always got dirt under their fingernails. They're encountering a bunch of things. I don't know if scientists would agree, but there is that school of thought. But I think one of the reasons why the flu has been relatively non-existent through COVID is because so many people are masked and so many people were keeping distance and there was plexiglass and there was hand sanitizer. So I'm not ready to sort of throw everything in a bag and get rid of it all.
I ran into a person I grew up with, and she's now a doctor at the Stollery. And I ran into her yesterday, and not literally, figuratively. And
people were worried.
Yeah. And she was saying, the winter was really something because you saw that the regular kinds of things that were being transferred, and we've heard this, that, the flu wasn't a thing this year because people weren't going to work sick. Kids weren't going to school sick. That stuff got shut down and people were wearing masks. So they were keeping their germs to themselves.
Yeah. Jillian is right when she says, Ryan, you especially need to keep the garage hand sanitizer as men do not wash their hands. Jillian, you're not wrong. She also goes on to say we need a segment on handling the awkward situation of unvaccinated friends. I can talk about that all day. Where's your head on that, Sam? I noticed you looked like you had something there. Talking about getting rid of everything or keeping the sanitizer out. What's your best practice?
One of the things that I've just kind of noticed has just been, I guess, a built-in bonus is that I always have sanitizer on me now. Like there is probably 2 bottles in my bag.
Right.
There's a bottle in my glove compartment. There's a couple bottles in my garage. It's convenient if I'm, running around the yard picking up the little treats that Sophie left for me to be able to just squirt.
You do use a shovel,
sanitizer.
right?
I do.
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
Don't do that.
Just like bare hands.
It's just barehanded.
I have sanitizer.
Yeah. So I just like having more sanitizer kind of smattered about in my life has just been a bonus.
Yeah.
It's just easy to have clean hands on a quick note.
Yeah.
I find that also like going to fill up the car. And then when I think of like all the hands that must have touched the gas pump, and I'm like, ooh. So then I'm like, oh yeah, I am so glad I still have that hand sanitizer in here. But I think the key is I think by this point, a lot of people have found their favorite hand sanitizer. Like, do you prefer the spritz? Do you prefer the gel? And do you like the gel?
Gel all the way.
Oh, I'm spritz all the way.
Ooh. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like how spreadable is it? Because I hate the stuff. My niece calls it alien snot when it like is really like oozy.
Wow. Okay. Alien snot.
Alien snot.
Another great band name. Marie says that she's carrying hand sanitizer in every jacket pocket and every vehicle. For sure. Let's touch on what Jillian said. She says we need a segment on handling the awkward situation of unvaccinated friends. Well, this is a segment that our podcast audience will hear later, but why don't we have it live right now in our live chat? Why don't we have it with the 3 of us? Why don't we have it? I would love to hear from you. How are you handling this? How are you managing it with your friends? I have some friends that are very close to me. I would never name names. Why would I ever do that? But they know who they are. Friends that are very dear to me that will not get vaccinated. One of them in particular, he said to me, when I need to travel, like if it's going to stand in the way of me traveling, I'll do it. We're close enough that I said to him, so it's not enough for you that we would prefer and feel more comfortable and quite frankly be more inclined to hang out with you if you got your shots. But if you want to travel, you'll get them. So you're going to want to travel. He owns properties outside the country and outside the province for that matter. He's done all right. And he knows he's going to travel. So he knows he's going to get a shot. This is maybe number 4 on the list of the 4 types of people that we heard about earlier today that aren't getting vaccinated and why. And maybe there's a vaccine hesitancy. And this show has taken the position that we're not going to sit and slam people that are vaccine hesitant. I think that is very counterproductive. I think it's insensitive a little bit. I think it's actually a little bit ignorant to simply brush away concerns or questions that people may have. And that's why we've spoken to so many experts about are vaccines safe, putting questions in front of them. Here's what we're seeing online. Here's what drunk Uncle Larry says on Facebook. What's the truth? Because we want to address these vaccine hesitancies. And vaccine hesitant is not anti-vax, but at some point, Like where's the proof? I saw somebody the other day. There was a back and forth on Twitter, and it actually ended with an LOL and an LOL, and it was like these two people that were smacking heads came together and had a good chuckle, which I appreciated. But they were talking about vaccines, and someone said to this guy, "You don't know what's in the vaccine," and the guy wrote back, "I don't know what's in anything." And then they just LOL'd, and I thought it was actually a pretty decent point.
Yeah, have you looked at the ingredients list of your
anything?
But I think also to the conversation that we had last week about the Safer Shopping Network around what stores are permitting or continuing to have masks and encourage their staff to wear masks. The idea that if someone's unvaccinated, it's not necessarily because they're vaccine hesitant. It's because that they can't get a vaccine for one reason or another. So I think having these challenging conversations. I showed up at a place this past weekend and there were two people that I didn't know, and I didn't know that they were going to be there, and I didn't know what their status was. And so when the group went inside, I stayed outside.
Yeah. It's going to become more it's going to become more of a thing as people start to throw parties again, as people start to host birthdays again, as people start to bring or welcome people back into their homes. Quite frankly, as people start to pass joints around a circle again that, haven't been doing that for a month and a half, and all of a sudden you're going, I don't think that it'll be an unusual request that people will ask others to disclose their status. It may feel awkward. This is I don't even know if I want to open this can.
Do it.
So I had one of my more memorable and awkward conversations in my previous show's life was with a very dear friend of mine who used to work at HIV Edmonton, and we were talking about disclosure of status, of whether or not you're HIV positive, for example, and she argued. And came to the table with compelling arguments and facts. And it was actually, I didn't think that the interview was going to go this way. This was not why she was there. And so I felt a little underprepared. I only had my gut instinct, which oftentimes is, I learned this from a guy people may know by the name of Charles Adler. You don't need to do a ton of, Larry King used to say this too. Larry King would notoriously underprepare. He said he liked to go into interviews almost blind because he was in the same position as the audience. So the first question might be, what's this all about? Why does this matter? Why are you doing that? This doesn't make sense. Explain this to us. Real basic, punchy questions. So I only had my gut instinct, but she started talking about how it's not ethical nor appropriate to require people who are HIV positive to disclose their status. She says if there's zero viral load or if they meet certain criteria or parameters, it is not somebody else's business. Even if they are an intimate partner, it is not their business whether or not the person they're in bed with is HIV positive. And I went, absolutely not. And I came across, or let me say that I was informed by many people that my position, from a progressive, this is a very disappointing position to take, Ryan. But I'm sitting there thinking, back in my single days, if I'm intimate with someone and find out after the fact that they were HIV positive, I would be furious if I had not been informed. Now, people, I don't want to read too much into this and say, are you comparing someone that hasn't had their vaccines to somebody who's HIV positive? I'm just saying it's occurring to me here as we put this show out live that it may be a comparable or a parallel conversation. When is it someone else's business what your health status is, if your health status could potentially impact that person's health status?
For a lifetime.
I'm not talking about if you have breast cancer or if you have a brain tumor and you're wanting to keep that to yourself. You don't want people to treat you differently. You're going to fight it quietly. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about circumstances where people could be impacted. Let's see, Arnold says, there's a difference between disclosing when you're sick and infectious or disclosing whether or not you're vaccinated. Many people cannot be vaccinated and don't deserve to be treated differently for that. I'm not sure.
But I actually think that's entirely the point in that the whole concept of herd immunity, the whole concept of having the majority of the population inoculated against a disease, so we built up this collective immunity, is to protect the people that can't be vaccinated.
Yeah.
A lot of the reasons why you get your shot is because somebody can't get theirs. They're immunocompromised. They're in a situation where life is just harder and the world is more scary for them, and they have to take a lot of precautions. And the thing that we can do in our lives is make sure that when they walk into a situation, everything around them is as safe as it can possibly be.
Jen wonders, Ryan, do you think people who are HIV positive should have to inform their employer? Absolutely not. I'm talking about sexual partners.
Well, I think there's in, sex positivity and sex education, the idea is that two consenting individuals need to have that conversation prior to engaging, where there could be bodily fluids exchanged. So the idea that you need to have that conversation, it's not a bad conversation. It's not, it might be awkward, but it's vital that you talk about what your status is, when were you last tested. It's got to be done.
Joanne says it sure is going to make work meetings uncomfortable. My theory, says Joanne, if you're vaccinated, let people know. And if they're quiet, then you can assume they are not vaccinated. I mean, assumption for sure. She says, I let my employer know right away. Kelly says, I saw a photo from a wedding that had colored wristbands about how comfortable people felt about being approached with or without a mask. It was a cool idea. That's interesting.
I thought it was going to say who was vaxxed and who wasn't. And I was like, then we're going to start getting into the...
You're going to get the dummies talking about the Star of David.
That's exactly what it would be.
Yeah. Jill says, at the moment, I'm thinking of avoiding my unvaccinated friends until my kids who are under 12 can get vaccinated. But it's tricky in a friend group. And all of my main girl gang, says Jill, are vaccinated except for one. And then Marie, I prefer Marie not to... Marie, she says, does anybody know what's in hot dogs? Like I said, taco in a bag. And that wraps up this show with a bow, except for we still want to remind you that the team at Eden Landscaping, these are the days that they are making dreams. They're turning dreams into reality. They've been working with their partners and clients, people just like you, real talkers. By the way, they've heard from a ton of you. Thank you for that. Landscapeedmonton.ca. Real talkers that have been looking out their front windows or the bay window into the backyard saying we can do so much better. We can do so much better with this space. Why do we continue to waste this space? Get in touch with Mike today, whether you have a specific plan, whether you have your Pinterest board ready to show him, or maybe you just have a general idea of what you'd love for him to design along with his team. They've been doing it for more than 20 years, earning the trust and repeat business of their customers. You can check out Eden Landscaping today at landscapeedmonton.ca. Also wanted to remind you that the team at Local Waste loves talking trash and they love earning your business. That means if you're in a bad contract, whether you're a small entrepreneur, whether you have a tiny little business, ma and pa type shop, or a big one, they come up with the waste management solution that works for you. They don't sell you more than you need. It's all about integrity, one of their core values. You can learn more at localwaste.ca. And a reminder, Trash Talk goes this Friday. You can send your gripes in. A few of you took us up yesterday on the challenge for non-political trash talks. Love it. To talk at ryanjesperson.com. And a big shout out to the teams at St. Albert and Sherwood Dodge. They've got all those heavy haulers, those Rams ready to go. 3-time Motor Trend Truck of the Year for a reason. Albertans and Canadians trust Ram to get their fifth wheels and their toy haulers and their boats and their pup trailers and everything else where they need to get this summer. If your summer involves getting outside and you're going to be pulling a trailer, pull it with a Ram from Sherwood and St. Albert Dodge. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we're going to be checking in with Warren Kinsella, who's got a hot take or two on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. We're going to learn more about purity culture. What's that all about? And bison babies in Banff. It's a wonderful story. This animal talk this week. I'm loving it, Hoyles. We'll talk to you soon, Real Talkers. Make it a great day.